Hi, my name's Loren, and I'm going to be talking to you today about ProPodcasting. And I'm going to be doing this from the perspective of someone who was sitting in the room right where you guys are 12 months ago. Now, I actually nearly wasn't sitting in the room. I came to ProBlogger with no intention of starting a podcast. In fact, I'd actually thought about it for a while, but went, you know, it's going to be a bit too hard, it's going to need a whole lot of time, energy, don't have that. So I wasn't going to rock up to the session, because I'm the kind of person that if you have me on your webinar, I'm going to buy, because I'm really easily influenced. So I remember walking into the session last year going, Loren, you're not starting a podcast. You're not starting a podcast. You are not starting a podcast. Anyway, I came and sat right down the front, pretty much where you're sitting, and sat there for an hour, and I was thoroughly entertained, educated and inspired by the bromance that was Chris Ducker and Pat Flynn. And at the end of the session, they said, who's starting a podcast? My hand went up in the air faster than anyone else in the room. In fact, I might have even stood up, and I do remember skipping out of the room saying, I'm starting a podcast, pretty much to anyone that would listen to me. So then, later that night, saddled up next to Chris Ducker in the bar, as you do, and said to Chris, hey Chris, I'm going to start a podcast. I'm going to launch it, make it into New and Noteworthy on iTunes, then get into after New and Noteworthy, I'm going to get into What's Hot. I'm going to actually make it to the top of our category as well, all those things you taught us about today, and come back to ProBlogger next year and present my case study on how I did it. Will you be a guest on my show? Anyway, Chris said yes, and I was like, oh shit, now what do I do? So I went home and pretty much did nothing. And then I went and thought, I can't do this by myself. So I went and asked my great friend Fiona Redding, please stand up, if she would join me on the journey. And she said yes. And I was like, oh, I really kind of need to do this now. So we then pretty much did nothing. And then it got to the 30th of December, or a little bit before the 30th of December, and Fiona said, hey, Loren, if we're really going to do this, we probably should start planning or something. So on the 30th of December, we got together and we had the most awesome day ever. We put butcher's paper all over the walls and we started going, what's this going to look like? And we started with our audience, because that's where we always should start. And we said, who are our listeners going to be? And after coming up with all these different ideas, we realised our listeners were us. And our listeners were people who love what they do so much in their business, they could quite happily do it 24/7, but it's not real healthy, and perhaps they've got a few side effects as a result of this addiction. We thought, what are the key messages we're going to need to give to these people? And we thought, well, one, they're going to want to feed that addiction because, you know, they're business addicts. They love what they do. They want to learn more. But they probably need some more information that's going to help them better manage their addiction, because Fiona and I both did. We looked at the format and we thought, well, we're going to do a co-host kind of situation, and we want to get some subject matter experts on as our guests because, like, seriously, they're going to make us look good, and they have. And then we thought, well, what's this show name going to be? And whilst we did come up with what we thought was going to be our final name on the day, we actually changed it. But the reason I'm saying it's really important to do that up front is it holds up a whole lot of other stuff if you don't. And you've got to pick a name that, one's going to be found in search, and two, that people are going to resonate with. Who in the room thinks they're a business addict? Please show me your hands. Yeah, this is what's happening when we tell people about business addicts. They're like, hell yeah, I'm one of them. Easy to sell your podcast that way. So then what we did is we went and claimed all those URLs, handles, you know, hashtags, all that kind of stuff. And then to start doing our branding. But our branding went so much further than that. We were like, how do we want to be represented visually? And how are we going to stand out in iTunes? And how are we going to kind of modify that brand for live events that we want to run, and for our episode artwork, and for our social media communities? And then we had a bit of fun with that as well. And with our fun, we decided to make some stickers and some other cool stuff that would just make us notice places that we went. And then we thought, oh, how do you actually do a podcast? So we went and learned that too. And I actually just went and did these 2 free courses, and then I kind of just blended the learning together, made some stuff up, and that's what we do. We had to find some equipment, and my advice to you on the equipment front is get the best possible equipment you can afford. You'll probably have to upgrade later, but just start. Make sure you record in an area where there's good acoustics, not too much background noise or echoing. And then for us, it was a case of developing an online presence around that for the brand, because this was a new podcast separate to our two businesses. As part of setting up our online presence, we went for that email newsletter that, has just been spoken about, and our social media presence, because it was really important that we started to build a community. And the one community that we've built in particular is our Facebook group. We have a Facebook page. You kind of need one of them, but the group is awesome. There's some awesome business addicts in there, aren't there, guys? Come on, woohoo, 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 yay! And then it was our guests, and our guests have been amazing. So what we did is we went to some people that we'd like to have on the show, and we ran the concept by them as a bit of a litmus test, because we thought, you know what, if we can't convince these guests to come on the show, how the hell are we going to convince anyone to listen? And anyway, we ran the concept by them, asked them if they'd come on the show, and they said yes. So what we did is we started with the networks that we already knew and our extended networks, and we pushed ourselves outside our boundaries and just asked people we really wanted to be there. And then it had this whole snowball effect. If you can go to people and say, can you come on my show? We've already had the likes of Chris Ducker, James Tuckerman, Denise Duffield-Thomas, Darren Rouse. They say yes. So we were really, really, really impressed with the quality of people we've been able to have. So I know there's some techie people in the room that are probably going to say, yeah, but how the hell do you do this, Loren? So I'll kind of tell you that. We do it the way that we do it, which is probably different to everyone else. But we record via Skype. We use Ecamm Recorder to do that. We edit in GarageBand. There are better ways. We then run it through Auphonic to level out the sound. We tag it in iTunes, we upload it to Libsyn, we then embed it on our blog, and then that gets pushed out to all the RSS feeds of the podcasting directories we submit to. If that sounds confusing, it is a little, that's why you need to learn it. Then it was a case of generating buzz. And for us, we had our existing communities. My business is called Impactivate. I teach social media for business. Fiona's is the happiness hunter. She creates happiness. So we went out to those communities because there's business addicts in them and promoted the podcast within it. We went back to that awesome online community that we developed in terms of before we actually launched the podcast. And then we also went out to that email list. And now we have a push button audience that we can send the show notes to from all of our episodes every single time that we release of a Sunday morning at 9 a.m. And then it was those awesome guests also that really supported us from the beginning and helped us distribute this out to their networks as well, which amplified the reach that Fiona and I just could never have achieved on our own. So from then, it was a case of pushing that button, launching it, waiting, only took a couple of days, and we were live in iTunes. And from that point forward is when the fun really starts. So there's 5 words you need to listen, and commit this to memory, because this is going to be your catchphrase if you're going to launch a podcast at any point in time. And that is download, subscribe, listen, rate, and review. They are the 5 special words. You need people to subscribe, because when they subscribe, then what happens is every time you release an episode, they get it pushed to their phone. You want them to download it, and particularly if you've got a back catalogue, you want them to download the back catalogue as well, because what that's going to do is it's going to then, download, like we've got 20 odd episodes now, 26 I think it is. Then they're going to suddenly download 26 episodes at a time. That sends signals back to the directories to say, hey, people are into this stuff. You definitely want people to listen, because when they listen, that's when they consume the value that you've spent so long creating, and they start becoming advocates for your podcast and, telling other people how awesome you are. And we've been really fortunate in that. We've actually had 60 ratings and reviews, and our goal is actually to get to 100 by the end of ProBlogger. So anyone that wants to give us one of them and show me in the bar later tonight gets a drink. Oh no, I'm serious. And that's how we managed to get to New and Noteworthy in iTunes within 24 hours of launching. We also made it to #1 in our category, which is the management and marketing category. But you know what? Quite tragically, we've only made it to #5 in business. Come on, Darren Rouse up the back there, he got there like within 2 seconds. But we didn't have the reach that he had when we started. And, I'm pretty sure everyone else in the room that's considering it doesn't either. So from there we jumped into what's hot. Go back a sec. After 15 weeks in New and Noteworthy, we jumped into, we got booted out of there. We jumped into what's hot. We have awesome people like Ange, who's writing blog posts about how great we are. We have a fantastic community. We had 65 people actually pay to come and hang out with Fiona and I at our first meetup. And then we had another one and we had similar numbers turn up, so it wasn't actually a fluke. And we've had massive benefits to us. Yes, we direct monetised it by having people come to an event, but seriously, I'm not retiring on that. With the speaking gigs we've been able to obtain by doing something like this has been phenomenal, and good quality paid speaking gigs as well. My consultancy's gone through the roof, selling more products off the back of it, and we're looking, watch this space, to do some business Addicts products coming soon. Our list building has skyrocketed. We've created this platform for partnerships and other opportunities that I just didn't get from my blog. Sorry, bloggers. And so just to finish up, I want to say, if you're considering this, get help. And I mean, collaborate with other people. Get help. Get help with the tech and the learning. Get help with pre-production and post-production. At about episode 20, I decided to hand over the post-production. And I'm more than happy to pay for that now. I've taken on a team member to do that because of the benefits that it's having for my business. So I just want to finish up by saying, who's going to launch a podcast in the next 12 months? You've got 2 seconds. Seriously, no one jumped. Come on. Great, guys. Thank you. I'll look forward to seeing you up here next year.